Some women don't chase, and yet they are never forgotten. When she pulls away, something ancient awakens inside him. Not a thought, not a decision, but a fracture of the soul. He feels a silence he cannot name, an absence that unsettles the deepest layers of his being. For in her distance, he confronts what he has always feared, himself. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And so it is with men who find themselves obsessed, broken, or restless when a woman steps back. What he secretly hides in that moment is not simply longing, it is shadow. Every man carries within him two worlds, the face he shows the woman and the face he hides even from himself. When she is near, her presence soothes the fracture, distracting him from his unhealed wounds. But when she pulls away, the mask begins to crack. He hides his fear of abandonment. He hides the child within him who was never chosen, never truly seen. He hides his projections, the way he mistook her for his savior, his mirror, his missing piece. And most of all, he hides the truth that his obsession is not about her at all. It is about the shadows he refuses to face. When a woman withdraws, the man often believes he is battling her silence, but in truth, he is battling himself. The silence is not a punishment, it is a mirror. He may call her cold, he may accuse her of cruelty, but deep within, what bleeds is not her absence. It is his unintegrated anima, the feminine energy inside him that he has disowned. Jung taught that a man projects his anima onto the women he desires. She becomes the vessel of all his unlived tenderness, his longing for wholeness, his spiritual hunger. When she pulls away, that vessel disappears, and he feels emptied, shattered, betrayed by something that was never hers to hold. What he hides is this: his wound was never her responsibility. The woman who pulls away is not weak. She is not cruel. She is not playing games. She is awakening his shadow by refusing to carry it for him. And in her refusal, she becomes unforgettable. Because some women are remembered not for what they gave, but for what they denied. Not for their surrender, but for their silence. You must understand this. When you pull away, he is not only missing you, he is missing the illusion he built around you. He is missing the fantasy you unknowingly carried, the unfinished story he projected onto your skin. But do not mistake his obsession for love. Do not mistake his hunger for depth. It is not you he is fighting for. It is his own shadow he is running from. The Stoics taught that attachment is the seed of suffering, that what disturbs man is not the thing itself, but the story he tells himself about it. When she pulls away, the man tells himself a story. She abandoned me. She betrayed me. She wounded me. But the deeper truth is this: her absence did not create his suffering. It only revealed it. For the pain was already there. The silence only uncovered it. This is why a woman's detachment can feel like fire to a man who has not faced himself. Her absence is not emptiness, it is initiation. Her silence is not rejection, it is revelation. And yet he will rarely admit it. For what he hides is too tender, too fragile, too shameful to be spoken aloud. He hides his dependency. He hides the way his ego was built on her reflection. He hides that without her gaze, he feels invisible, not only to her, but to the world. This is what a man secretly hides when you pull away. When she steps back, the man feels an ache that he cannot describe. He may name it longing. He may disguise it as anger. He may even cloak it in pride. But beneath all these masks lies fragmentation. For every man carries two selves, the self he shows the world, polished and composed, and the fractured self that trembles in silence, aching for validation. When she walks away, the polished self cracks, and the trembling one rises. This is what he hides. The boy who was not chosen, the lover who was not enough, the child who once called out for comfort and met only silence. Her absence awakens not just his desire, but his history. Carl Jung wrote that a man projects his inner feminine, the anima, onto the women he desires. She becomes the mirror of his soul, the keeper of his tenderness, the answer to his hunger for wholeness. But when she pulls away, the projection collapses. The anima withdraws into the unconscious, leaving him face to face with emptiness. He hides this collapse beneath bravado, beneath control, beneath words like, "I never cared," or "she wasn't enough." But what he truly hides is the death of an illusion. It is not her absence that torments him, but the return of his own shadow. This is why his obsession grows, because the woman who withdraws becomes mythic in his mind. She is no longer simply a woman, she becomes the forbidden, the unattainable, the divine mother, the cruel goddess, the ghost who will not return. Her silence becomes a stage on which his unconscious performs its oldest play. Every wound, every abandonment, every unmet desire returns in her absence. And so he hides his powerlessness. He hides that she has become larger than life in his imagination, not because of who she is, but because of what she stirred in him. And you must see clearly. His longing is not proof of your worth. His obsession is not evidence of your power. It is the echo of his shadow crashing against the walls of his soul. When you walk away, you do not weaken. You awaken. When you remain silent, you do not disappear. You become the mirror he cannot bear to face. This is why he hides his pain. Because I confess it would mean to admit it was never about you. The ego hates silence. The ego hates detachment. The ego demands attention, confirmation, reassurance. But the soul longs for truth. When she pulls away, the man's ego rages, but his soul whispers. The rage cries out for her return, but the whisper calls him inward, into the abyss he has avoided. And so he hides his conflict, the storm of ego fighting the quiet pull of the soul. The Stoics knew this well, that suffering is not in the loss itself, but in the clinging to what was never ours. She was never his possession. Her presence was never a guarantee. Her gaze was never a right. But still the ego clings, and in the clinging he suffers. What he hides then is not his love for her, but his refusal to let go of the story he created around her. In the silence of her absence, something extraordinary can happen. For if he dares to sit with the emptiness, if he dares to meet the boy he has buried, if he dares to hold his anima within himself instead of casting her onto her skin, he begins to transform, but most do not. Most turn the wound outward, hiding it beneath anger, revenge, or endless distraction, because it is easier to chase her shadow than to embrace his own. And this is why, when you pull away, he hides his truth. Because his truth is unbearable. Because his truth is himself. When she withdraws, the man often builds a fortress of silence, a fortress of indifference, a fortress of carefully curated distractions. Another woman, another conquest, another stage where he plays the role of someone untouched. But within, the fortress shakes. The walls are thin, because every distraction is haunted by her absence. Every performance echoes with the truth he cannot bury. What he hides, above all, is that control is an illusion, for no fortress can silence the echo of his shadow. Jung would say, what a man rejects in himself returns through projection, and so her absence becomes unbearable because it is not simply her he has lost. It is the anima, his inner feminine, slipping from his grasp. It is his denied tenderness, his unclaimed vulnerability, his orphaned longing. This is why obsession grows in silence, why he stalks her memory, relives her words, replays her gaze in his mind. He is not seeking her. He is seeking the part of himself that she awakened. But he cannot admit this, because to admit it would be to say, she was never mine. She was only a mirror. And you, if you hear his silence, do not mistake it for strength. If you see him move on too quickly, do not mistake it for power. If he pretends indifference, do not mistake it for healing. What he hides is not indifference but fire, not freedom but entanglement, not peace but the storm of a man torn open by his own shadow. When you pull away, you do not vanish. You become the ghost he cannot exorcise. The archetypal woman does not stay to mend him. She does not water the cracks in his mask. She does not mistake his longing for love. She sees. She sees the boy behind the man. She sees the shadow behind the smile. She sees that his obsession is not intimacy but fear. And so she chooses silence not as punishment, but as clarity. Her silence is not rejection, it is revelation. The man hides his deepest terror, that the woman who walks away in silence will never return, that the mirror she once held before him has shattered, that he will have to meet his anima, not on her skin, but within his own soul. This is the truth he cannot face. This is the truth he buries under pride, anger, distraction. But still, in the quietest moments when the fortress crumbles, he whispers her name, not because she was the answer, but because she was the door. And so, the woman who pulls away is not weak. She is not cold. She is not cruel. She is free. The woman who walks away in silence isn't weak. She simply sees more. And if these words stirred something in you, if they opened your eyes to the shadows and the silence, then stay with us. There are more truths hidden in the places no one dares to look. Like this video, share it with the ones who need to hear it, and subscribe to this channel where the unseen always comes to light.